Modi government is on a firefighting mode over rising fuel prices. Facing criticism from the opposition parties and allies, Centre announces a reduction in excise duty on petrol and diesel, which will be cheaper by 2 rupees per litre from midnight. The sharp cut in excise duty will lead to a revenue loss of around 13,000 crore rupees for the current fiscal. The chorus for a rate cut grows ahead of the RBI monetary policy announcement tomorrow. An ET poll reveals that the central bank is likely to opt for status quo amid rising inflation and the hawkish stance of the US Federal Reserve. But top economists and corporates bat for a rate cut, saying that the economy needs some unconventional measures to revive growth. Early signs of revival in the economy as auto sales hit the fast lane in September. Leading car makers Hyundai, Honda and Tata Motors post strong growth even as market leader Maruti notches up more than 9% jump in sales. And it's a double treat on the macro front as core sector grows almost 5% in August, the highest in 5 months. Market ends firm as auto and FMCG stocks lead the rally on D Street. Sensex jumps over 200 points as sentiment remains firm ahead of RBI's monetary policy decision tomorrow. Nifty reclaims 98.50, fueled by global optimism and sustained buying by domestic institutions. Vijay Mallya is arrested in London in connection to a money laundering case, only to be granted bail within minutes. In an exclusive chat with ET Now, the Enforcement Directorate's counsel says this was just a procedural arrest, but the investigating agency has concrete evidence to prove that Mallya has indeed laundered money. BJP chief Amit Shah hits out at the left-front government in Kerala for giving a tacit support to killings of RSS supporters. Shah, who kicked off a BJP campaign against the CPM-sponsored violence in Kerala, tells Times Network that Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan himself is sponsoring the politics of violence in the state. Indian security forces gunned down 3 Pakistan-based terrorists who attacked the BSF camp in Jammu and Kashmir. 1 Indian soldier is also martyred in the 10-hour-long gun battle. Pak-based terror outfit Jaish-e-Mohammed claims responsibility for the attack on the BSF camp. Hello and welcome to this special edition of the India Development Debate. First up, the big story we are tracking coming under fire over rising fuel prices. The Modi government today announced a sharp reduction in excise duty on petrol and diesel, which will now be cheaper by 2 rupees per litre. The decision, which comes to effect from midnight today, will lead to a revenue loss of around 26,000 crore rupees for the whole year, while the impact will be 13,000 crore rupees for the current fiscal. The government said the move will partially cushion the Indian consumer from the recent spike in crude prices. The government also said the excise duty reduction will also have a positive impact on the wholesale price index. Remember, the Modi government has been under pressure from the opposition parties and within its rank and file over the steep hike in fuel prices. The oil politics and how it will play out on the fisc, and more importantly, the common man. That's what we're debating on the India Development Debate. But first up, let's take it across to Nayanthara Rai, who's been tracking that story very closely. Nayanthara, 2 quick questions before we take it to our panelists on the India Development Debate tonight. Is this even, can this even be considered as some sort of a stimulus by the government, and why now?
I would call it a 13,000 crore rupee stimulus. So far, the Central Exchequer had been on record to say there will be no cuts, there will be no rationalization in excise duty. If the prices should go down, the states should follow suit. The ball is in their court. We pay a bomb and an arm and a leg for VAT, and the states should be doing their bit in cutting down the states' levies. That's what the Central Exchequer, and in fact, even the Petroleum Minister, Dharmendra Pradhan, have been on record about. So one way to look at it is that this is a 13,000 crore rupee stimulus coming in from the government, which affects people like you and me. The second question, and I find that to be the more pertinent one. Why now? The entire debate about the prices surging, if I may call it, is now a slightly outdated one. When was the last time you picked up a newspaper and actually saw a public outcry about rising petrol prices or diesel prices? It had, you could say, had been contained. So I find the timing very, very curious, very, very interesting. You have a 2-day long Monetary Policy Committee meet on of the RBI to decide rates. Is this a way of the government trying to prompt the RBI to hand out a rate cut, a cut that no one on the street is expecting, a cut that the industry wants, a cut that the consumers, home loan consumers or car loan consumers may want, but the RBI with its hawkish stance and what it has been saying about inflation has led the street to believe that no, there is going to be no rate cut, because it's sending out a very strong message for inflation, something which is also part of the CBEC press release. How from 1.88% in July, you've seen WPI increase to 3.28%. So the why now is a very big question, and I'm sure that your panelists would be better equipped to answer.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Nayantara giving us a big picture on the excise duty cut. Oil politics is what we're calling it. And joining us on the show this evening, Narendra, energy expert and BJP spokesperson, Sanjay Jha of the Congress, S. Narayan, former finance secretary, Prasenjit Bose, economist as well, joining in on the India development debate tonight. Narendra, I'm going to start off by asking you a very simple question. Is this oil politics at play? You know, have you done this just to douse the oil fire, just to douse the opposition coming in from the Congress party, from people like Sanjay Jha who've been, saying that why is the government not taking care of the Aam Aadmi? Is this being done not with economic logic, but with pure political consideration of dousing the fuel fire?
Not at all. You see, petrol is a decontrolled commodity, as you know. Diesel is decontrolled. And at the same time, our dependence on import is 82%, which means there is a national dimension, there is a global dimension to the whole story. And the government, central government, play a very important role is in this sector, as a regulator or manager in terms of excise, custom and central taxes. States play a very important role in terms of VAT and sale tax and all that. So what the central government has done basically, companies are doing their job because these are decontrolled commodities, but the central government has been, as part of the overall management of the petroleum economics from the central government point of view, and overall, you see, this is a dynamic process. Part of the dynamic process, we increased the excise when we thought we could do that and use that money, pass on the benefit of that to the people, not in terms of cash, but in terms of, various schemes, infrastructure, better infrastructure, Swachh Bharat Yojana, a number of other schemes. I mean, if you give me time, I can count all the schemes and the kind of money we are spending there. But today we thought it's important, necessary that we should, and we can, that we decided to bring down the price by 2 rupees. That's basically, we think that as part of the overall dynamic management of the petroleum economics of the country, that we can afford to do that, because after all, the consumers, they are the most important people for us. And at the same time, we feel that kind of, 2 rupees thing is going to benefit the ordinary consumer, is going to help the economy, also going to help us control, prices and so on and so forth. It's just part of the overall management, which is the responsibility of the central government. And we expect various state governments run by various political parties get a clue, and they will do something in terms of sales and VAT.
Okay, fair enough. Those are opening comments from Narendra Taneja. Sanjay Jha, I'm going to come in. Now, I have to say that I don't necessarily agree with the Congress's position on this particular issue. But on tonight, I feel that the BJP is probably, gone half-hearted. It's gone neither here nor there. It hasn't had conviction in this decision, and yet it's done something to just douse the political fire. Sanjay Jha, Narendra Taneja is saying this is part of the ongoing management of fuel prices. It's an ongoing fluid situation. The government felt, the common man needs to be relieved of the burden, and so it's done it. How do you read this? Is this tokenism?
Sandeep, let me be very blunt. This is totally hollow rhetoric. I'll give you a simple example. I mean, you are witnessing in India today a double whammy for the common consumers of India, including you, me, and everyone watching your ET Now program. Look at the extraordinary situation we are getting into. There is falling GDP growth, and by the way, we are not talking about just one quarter. There's been a trend of falling GDP for the last 6 quarters, or maybe even more. And you can, one can safely predict that the next quarter is going to see even a higher level of diminished output. That is a sign of worry. So the GDP is falling down, and the index that I saw today says that both the wholesale price and the consumer price inflation is on the rise. Now, tell me, where does the common man of India go? His growth, that means his wages are stagnating or coming down, and his cost of living is going up. Now, end of day, what has the government done? The government has reduced excise duties only because your channel and several other channels and the opposition parties and civil society and the social media has protested against the brazen extortion. I won't even call it exploitation, the extortion from the common man, by which when global prices crashed, the government actually amassed money from all of us and we don't know where the money has gone. Mr. Taneja claims it was spent in infrastructure, but we don't see that infrastructure in the roads in Mumbai, in the railways infrastructure in Mumbai at all, where innocent people are dying. So the truth of the matter is that the government is today actually a victim of its own, what I call is failed policies. Because ideally, Sandeep, you know it better than me, if India's GDP was growing, your tax collections, I'm talking about direct tax collections, would have been high, and the common man would not have bled on excise duties on petroleum products, or for that matter, even the GST.
You know, I want to ask a question to you, Sanjay Jha, but let me just get opening comments from all our panelists, and then I'm going to come back to you. I have a follow-up to what you just said. Prasenjit Bose, you've also been sort of writing extensively on the need for the government to bring down excise duty on petrol and diesel, and they've sort of moved in that direction. How do you read the move that's happened today? Is it a bit of neither here nor there? Is it just tokenism? Does this really have any meaningful impact? Will this do good to the economy? Is this going to do significant good even to the common man, just a ₹2 cut?
Yeah, I completely agree that it is a half-hearted move, but it is still a move in the right direction. So first of all, I would like to say that if the government has cut excise duties, it has done the right thing. I think the extent of the cut is one issue, and given the fact that the excise duties on petrol and diesel have been hiked 9 times in the past 3 years, it was around ₹4.50 on petrol when Mr. Modi became Prime Minister. Today it is 21 rupees per litre. So if after hiking it by such a huge margin, if they are, today cutting it by ₹2, it's actually a very half-hearted measure, but it is a measure in the right direction. And I completely agree with what Mr. Jha has said, that the BJP was compelled to do it. And I recall not just a few weeks ago, someone like Mr. Taneja and other BJP spokespersons, they were coming in vehemently arguing against excise duty cut, and they were saying that the states should do it. Now they have lost the debate. The government's position has become untenable, and it is because of the combined protest of the opposition, of the civil society, of economists, of various other sections of society, that the government today is being forced to roll back a unjustified policy, that of milking the petroleum sector through very high levels of indirect taxes. I think it is a step in the direction, but this definitely needs to be taken much further if you are really talking in terms of a stimulus to be meaningful in turning around the economy, which is coming down in a big way.
Okay, fair enough. S. Narayan, I'm going to come to you now, and I'm guessing you will obviously have a slightly more dispassionate view on this issue, and you look at it from the perspective of the economy at large, and not necessarily from the point of view of a common man, because this show is about India development. So how do you read the move that's happened today? Do you think the government has just given into political pressure? I know people are going to read this as a 13,000 crore stimulus. Can we even call it a 13,000 crore stimulus? How do you read the move taken by the government today? Mr. S. Narayan, that's for you.
Okay. Let me, okay, the arguments so far have been mostly from the political side, but we have to understand that this step that the government has taken to reduce excise duties is a very, very welcome step and should have happened even earlier. And that is because, as has been repeatedly pointed out in media and by several analysts, the rates of the petrol and diesel at the retail level had reached levels which were not there even when the oil prices were almost double what they were. Diesel prices have almost reached a maximum in Delhi in the last couple of days. So why have the government done this? One is, of course, a recognition that too much of a burden on petrol will cause a dampener to the economy. And on one side, we are seeing automobile sales and commercial vehicle sales going up, and light engineering and automobile sector starting to pick up. So at this stage, it makes sense to reduce the prices of petrol and diesel in order to make sure that this acts as an incentive for further consumption, particularly in the coming season, which is the Diwali and the festive season, as an incentive and also as a dampener to inflation. So yes, from all points of view, It's a very, very good step, and perhaps this step could have been taken earlier. Whether the step was taken merely because there was a political hoo-ha, there's a political argument, I mean, is a different point altogether. But I do think that in terms of giving a fillip to the opportunity for growth in the economy, this is a very right step taken at the right time.
Okay, you believe it's a right step taken at the right time. You're saying let's keep the politics aside. Okay, Narendra Taneja, Mr. S. Narayan spoke about the fact that this could incentivize consumption, but you would agree that probably petrol and diesel has a pretty low, price elasticity of demand. It's not as if petrol price goes up, people will, So do you think this could incentivize consumption? I'm trying to look at the broader impact on the economy. Agreed, it will be some relief to the common man. Let's talk about the broader impact of the economy. You're also an energy expert yourself, and like Sanjay pointed out, for the last several months, you've come on debates like this defending the government's position not to cut excise duty. So I want to understand, what does this really do to the economy as a whole? Please explain to our viewers, how does the economy stand to benefit from the decision that you've taken today, a 2 rupee, a cut. Just yesterday, we did a debate on fiscal stimulus and monetary stimulus, and we had one economist come and make a point saying that let's bring excise duty on petrol and diesel absolutely to zero, and let that be a massive stimulus of sorts to the economy. I can understand if you do such a drastic step, it could be a stimulus. This 13,000 crore rupee, in my view, is neither here nor there. How are you going to defend the impact of this on the broader economy? Narendra Taneja.
2 points. First of all, all the noises made by various political parties, TV, studio, the last 3-4 weeks on the prices, the decision has nothing to do with that. We are in direct touch with the people of this country, and we know precisely what they want. Number two, petroleum prices world over, it's a global commodity. Let's not forget that. They go up and down 4-5 times every day, globally. In Australia, they actually adjust the prices 5 times in a day. And here, so what we have done basically is very simple. Keeping, because a dynamic process, which is again, even in the eyes of the government, is 24/7 process. So you look at the prices internationally, you look at the same time the requirement of the ordinary consumer in this country, and you look at the overall kind of trends within the economies and how we're going to manage it, what is our reaction to all that. So it's basically, economy has been cruising, as you know, since we came into power. All fundamentals are in great shape, the economy is in a great shape, and this financial year we're going to touch 7% growth, if not 7, maybe 6.9%. So with the economy kind of in such a great shape, despite the fact that what some political commentators or political parties might say. So we think that this is the time, because this is a kind of the central government responsibility to manage it in such a way that the consumer is kept in the loop, and at the same time, at this position at time, we thought this is the time we can probably bring the prices down by 2 rupees. But as I said, because in the past we had actually increased the excise, and we got support from the consumers, because as I said, in other forms we gave the money back to the consumers, and the consumers, ordinary people of the country, they appreciate it very much. This is a government which is absolutely transparent, which is carrying out some fundamental and structural changes at the very foundation of the Indian economy, curing the cancer that we inherited, and so on and so forth. So this is what basically, so as I said, don't reach too much. It's just part of the overall dynamic day-to-day management of the petroleum economy of the country, and the decisions should be seen only in that, this thing. Tomorrow we may take another decision, and if required we may do whatever necessary, but the important thing is just twofold. Number one, to take care of the interest of the ordinary petroleum product consumer in the country, and at the same time make sure economy of the country keeps expanding in the interest of the ordinary Indian.
Right. If you were to only care about the ordinary consumer of the country, then, Sanjay is right when he's going to say, why now? Why were you waiting for so long before you acted? One would have assumed that, you saw rationale in not doing it. And, just for the benefit of our viewers, I do want to say what's at stake here. The revenue that the government got from excise duty from petroleum products was at 77,982 crores in FY14. And that shot up to 2,42,691 crores in FY17. That's the windfall that the government made on account of the dip in crude prices globally, which they did not pass on to the consumer, but in turn used that to spend in infrastructure projects, as Narendra Taneja pointed out. Now, Sanjay could say, where's that money going? But the fact is that government spend has gone up in public investment, has gone up 25% on a year-on-year basis ever since this government came to power, so which is some sort of a fiscal stimulus that's been in the economy. But Sanjay, come in on that. This is the government is now going to turn around and say, look, you asked it, you got it, now 13,000 crore stimulus, be happy. I am asking you, what does this do to the economy as a whole? It's a 2 rupee benefit to the consumer. I doubt if it's going to make any significant impact to the consumer. It's not as if you're going to fill more petrol in your car or fill more diesel in your car, or you have done it less in any way. What does this really do to the economy? Is it too incremental a step?
Sandeep, I totally agree with you. It is too little too late. And you see, what is worrying me is if the BJP actually believes what the spokesperson is saying today, that the Indian economy is in robust health, then I think we ought to get highly alarmed. You have a situation where government expenditure, incidentally, is actually, even that has diminished in terms of percentage. The only ray of hope was government expenditure. Exports, you know, is absolutely in a complete nosedive. Private investment is sluggish to begin with. And last but not the least, even consumer demand has been extremely low in terms of confidence. So what are we talking about? The last data that I read was the government has already utilized 96% of the fiscal deficit numbers by the end of September or by the end of August. So you are looking at a situation where the government's hands are completely tied. And I think the point that Prasenjit made, and that's a point that, Sandeep, I have made on your program very often, right, that by actually exploiting the common man by increasing excise taxes on petroleum products, they have got themselves into a sorry mess. Today you have a situation of rising inflation because everybody knows that petroleum products are used in transport and as an intermediary in manufacturing, and because they took away this purchasing power, you have aggregate demand has also been very, very low. So at the moment you have a scenario of, I don't know whether to use the word stagflation, but you are heading for a situation of low growth and rising inflation, and you cannot sort it out. If the BJP spokesperson is actually living in a fool's paradise, I can understand. But I respect Mr. Taneja, and I don't think the purpose of this program is to score cheap brownie points. The fundamentals are telling us that we need to be concerned as citizens of the country. Right. Now, there is going to be a political backlash. We are going to question the BJP. But end of day, the BJP needs to come out with concrete solutions. And at the moment, they clearly appear to be totally clueless.
Okay, since you are so concerned about the fiscal deficit, Sanjay Jain, you said that we are currently reaching 96% of the target. I do want to remind you that this move alone is going to hit revenues by 13,000 crores for this financial year, and for the full year, if you look at it, it's a 26,000 crore hit to the government. But I want to pose this question to S. Narayan, who probably understands the fisc better than the rest of us. S. Narayan, everyone, there's been a clamor for some sort of a stimulus in the economy, and people are saying there's need for both fiscal and monetary stimulus. There's been a clamor for some sort of a stimulus. This move alone will hit the fisc by about 13,000 crores. Is this the most appropriate tool that the government had to provide fiscal stimulus? Should they do more? Is this it? What's your view?
I think the arguments so far have been largely political arguments on why or how the government has allowed such a situation to come about. But I think I would contain myself to saying that, okay, if we are talking about a fiscal stimulus, is this a good step? And I have already said, yes, it is a good step. It is a good step immediately because it is going to save people's consumption of petrol and diesel in terms of money, and we are going into a festive season. Therefore, they will have marginally extra money to spend, and therefore you can have some kind of a multiplier effect happening. How much? Obviously, it's very difficult to say at an early stage like this. But the next question is this adequate? Is this good enough? Certainly not, because there have to be many more such steps to be taken. But please understand that this step has an immediate effect. Anything else in terms of taxation, in terms of, let us say, public disinvestment or any other step or infrastructure takes a much longer to kick in, whereas this step kicks in from tonight, from tomorrow morning. So the effect can be seen immediately, and I am sure the markets would welcome this. Starting tomorrow morning, the markets would welcome this step. So therefore, from all points of view, I think this is a step in the right direction. The argument is that it is not enough. Perhaps it's not enough, but is it a right step? Certainly it's a right step.
Okay, Prasenjit Bose, would you agree with Mr. S. Narayan there that the fact that this will offer some stimulus to the economy, don't judge it by the impact, but the fact that, or by the size of the stimulus, but by the fact that the impact is immediate, like he's saying, if the government were to spend this in a public, in some sort of increasing public expenditure in infrastructure project, that will take time. It will have a long gestation period, and the benefits will be visible in 6, 9, 12 months from now. Is this the most appropriate way to stimulate the economy, which is what everyone's talking about? Prasenjit Bose.
Well, I mean, there are various ways to stimulate the economy, but I have said this in previous occasions also, that cutting excise duties on petroleum would have an immediate impact, as the professor is saying, because it's not about the price elasticity of petroleum demand. It is about the fact that if petrol prices become cheaper, then people will have more disposable income, they will have more purchasing power, and it will release purchasing power, so people can spend on other things. If I save 10 rupees on petrol, I will spend that 10 rupees on something else, maybe manufactured goods and so on. So consumption demand will definitely get a boost. But the amount is, as you are mentioning, in this fiscal is 13,000 crore. I think 13,000 crore for a such a huge economy like India is actually basically tinkering at the margins. I think that the significant point about this measure is, I think this is for the first formal policy recognition of the fact by this government that the economy is in trouble. And this is where I think the BJP spokesperson, once again, he is trying to run with the hare and hunt with the hound. I mean, either the economy is growing at 7 to 8% or whatever he is claiming, or the economy is in trouble. If the economy is not in trouble, then why is the government giving a fiscal stimulus? So they should come out of this denial mode. First of all, acknowledge the fact that the economy is in trouble and debate the ways and means of getting the economy out of trouble through other measures. I don't think that a 2 rupee cut in excise duties should be enough to stimulate the economy, given the kind of depression of private investment that we have seen over the past several quarters. And in any case, I think the excise duties have been hiked by 9 times. I'm repeating it, by 9 times over the past 3 years. So given that huge increase of excise duties, I think a 2 rupees cut is really, it is not enough. So more has to be done. And the state, and as the petrol, and by the way, you should actually have a system of what the various spokespersons and, any panelist is saying in a particular program, so that they can't retract later. The BJP spokesperson have been, opposing excise duty cut in program after program. Today they are saying it is their idea and the opposition has got nothing to do. I think that it is unfortunate. It is a travesty of truth.
Okay, Prasenjit Bose, I am going to interrupt you. I'm going to interrupt you because I want to get in a word from Narendra Taneja. Narendra Taneja, a specific question, this can go on and on. I don't want to make this all about blame game. I understand there's no way you're going to give credit to the opposition or anyone else for the fact that you've moved, and, fair enough, it's the government's prerogative on when it wants to hike excise duty, when it wants to lower excise duty. But I'm trying to read into the timing of this move, because this could have happened yesterday, this could have happened last week, it has happened today. And the only reason I can think of, frankly, is that there is a monetary policy decision expected tomorrow. The Monetary Policy Committee is meeting today and tomorrow, and we expect a decision to come in from the central bank tomorrow. Is this a signal to the central bank? Because this move is likely to be disinflationary and should bring down inflation. Is this a signal to the central bank to cut rates?
No signal to RBI is an autonomous organization. Look, management of petroleum economics of the government in the country is a dynamic process. I mean, the view 20 days ago was very different. We were all expecting, including people like me who track oil sector practically on an hourly basis, that crude prices and the petroleum product prices would come down. The entire world in the global petroleum community was talking about it. But that didn't happen, because suddenly we find even developed country like OECD country, demand has gone up. Demand in India is growing by 6%. Suddenly China started buying more crude and more petroleum product. So the result is, instead of going down as we all expected, actually the prices have gone up. Then the government had to step in. As this is a dynamic process. Management of petroleum economics is a dynamic process. These things are not cast in iron. A statement that I make today or the minister makes today, you can't cast in an iron, because it depends how the situation in the market changes. This is a global market. We're not talking of just a small small, narrow, regional or national market. You have to respond accordingly. Important thing for us is that to protect the interest of the ordinary consumer, and second, at the same time, to make sure that overall health of the economy continues to be not only great shape, but keeps expanding overall economy. Whatever people may say, Sanjay Chai and my other friends, they have a right to say, they are politicians, they have their own views, and I respect that. But what is important is to know is the fundamentals of the economy. Overall national economy of India is in great shape. The entire world is talking about it, and you have to go by cold numbers simply, and also respect the opinion of those people who watch these things very closely and are very credible and big names around the world. We must also pay some attention to them.
Okay, this is not a state of the economy debate. Sanjay Jha, I'm coming to you in just a moment, but I want to get a quick word from Mr. S. Narayan, because I want to address the economics of this. Mr. Narayan, I know you want to keep away from the politics of the discussion, but a quick word on the signal that this could potentially send to to the Monetary Policy Committee. Is this a signal to the RBI that, look, a move like this is obviously going to be disinflationary, so does that create space for some sort of monetary action by the central bank tomorrow?
Actually, I got your question only in bits and parts, but if you are talking about the Monetary Policy Committee tomorrow, I think it's very, very important that there has been already, I think we have news in the papers that the RBI is starting to get concerned about inflation, and therefore this step that the government has taken would certainly assuage some of the fears that the Monetary Policy Committee may have. Whether this will lead to a change in stance in respect of the rate change that they may announce tomorrow, we'll have to wait until tomorrow to see. But to me, it indicates that the fear of inflation that some people have been talking about has been taken note of by the government in taking this step of reducing excise duties, because certainly this is going to calm inflationary trends. So I do think, again, I come back to what I was saying, that I really welcome this step.
Okay. Let me just get closing comments from my panelists. Sanjay Jha, I know you wanted to come in on the point that Narendra Taneja was making, but I want to slip in a quick question here as well, which is on the solution to this problem. We can keep having these debates on bring down excise duty, why you're raising up. Fundamentally, why can't all governments, all political parties agree and bring petroleum products under the GST net? Will you urge the BJP, the petroleum minister of the ruling NDA government, has said that the government would move in that direction provided state governments agree? And I know there is serious economic factors at play. Madhya Pradesh, for example, charges a VAT of 40%. And, just for the benefit again of our viewers, at 32%, if you were to charge a GST rate of 32%, then the state's share would only be 5 rupees, as against 13, 14, 15 rupees that they're getting right now. So there is a sort of a strong argument for them to not bring petroleum products under the GST net. But the long-term solution has to be to bring GST under to bring petroleum products under the GST net. Would the Congress party support that move?
No, absolutely. You know, Sandeep, let me tell you, if the Modi government had been transparent in terms of pricing of petroleum products, these discussions would have never happened. You would have had the international benchmark, you would have had the domestic comparison, and every time the prices went up there, it should have gone up here, it went down there, it should have gone down here. I mean, it's very elementary. Because they made it opaque, I mean, they let the international prices which were coming down not be reflected in the domestic market by taxing the common man. And therefore, you are finding that today you have a ridiculous situation where the price of petrol and diesel even today is higher when the price of petrol and diesel in the global market is 50% or less than what it was during the time of the Congress-led UPA. So the need of the hour is transparency. If GST is the way forward, I'm sure everybody will support it. I want to make just one point on tomorrow's RBI cut. My view, Sandeep, on that is very categorical. That end of day, if you look at the interest rate cuts that have been brought in since the time of Raghuram Rajan, they have come down by almost 200 basis points or 175 basis points. And yet the credit offtake has not happened. So if tomorrow the RBI were to cut down interest rates, I don't think they will, given the rising inflation. But I think the pressure or the expectation itself is flawed, because even with the reduced rates of almost 200 basis points, the credit offtake has been negligible. So I don't think we should expect that. I'm hoping that the stock markets have discounted it. Otherwise, you might have a bearish sentiment tomorrow.
Oh yes, the markets are not expecting a rate cut at all. No one in the market is. It's just that industry is clamoring for a rate cut. In fact, that's the debate that's coming up in just a few minutes right here on India Development Debate. But Prasenjit Bose, I'll let you have the last word on this debate. Let's talk about a long-term solution, because like we've been saying, we've had enough of these excise duty discussions on fuel. Is the long-term solution the fact that all governments need to bring petroleum products under GST net? Do you see it happening? Will political parties support the move? It's okay for Sanjay Jha, Narendra Taneja to say that, do that, but will a Shivraj Chauhan, will a Siddaramaiah, will they support a move like this?
Well, I mean, absolutely. I think that it's $1 billion question which I can't answer. I mean, whether even the BJP state governments would agree to bring petrol products under GST, because obviously they are also beneficiaries of this oil price bonanza. But if the central government takes a principled position that this is a sector which is clearly getting overtaxed, and this is not fair, it is unfair on the people, it is heaping burdens on the people, and if it creates a policy, that kind of an environment within the GST Council, and the BJP as a political party, because most state governments, major states are being run by the BJP, I think it is really up to the BJP to take a call. And I think that, this government has taken a series of what I will call completely irrational decisions from the economic point of view, from demonetization to the way the GST has been implemented, not the logic of the GST per se, to, the overtaxing of these petroleum products. I think that this cut is, after a very long time, we see at least a rational policy decision by this government.
Okay.
I just hope that this really prevails vis-a-vis the other state governments, and run either by the BJP or by the other political parties.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. In any case, the government is urging other state governments to bring down VAT as well and provide more relief to the common man, and there will be pressure on state governments to follow suit. But we'll leave it at that. Completely out of time. Sanjay Jha, Narendra Taneja, Prasenjit Bose and S. Narayan, thank you so much for taking time out and joining us on the India Development Debate this Tuesday evening. Viewers, like our experts have been pointing out, this is a move that's been in the works for a while now. Finally, a decision has been taken. 13,000 crore stimulus. It's probably too little, but the solution, the long-term solution to this, is only if all governments get together and agree to bring petroleum products under the GST net. That's the transparent thing to do. That's the right thing to do. Yes, some state governments will take a knock on their revenues, but they have to find other ways to bridge that revenue deficit. But fundamentally, that's the only way we need to move forward as far as fuel pricing and taxation of petroleum products are concerned. We're going to step into a short break here on the India Development Debate. On the other side, Supriya joins me for the other more important debate on how the RBI must act. It's time for the central bank to give growth a chance. Special pre-policy coverage. It's a power-packed panel. I can tell you, you won't get a panel better than this. Jahangir Aziz of JP Morgan, Chetan Iyer of Morgan Stanley, Shobna Kamineni, President of CII, and R. Jagannathan, Senior Journalist and Commentator. Join us for that edition of the India Development Debate that's coming in just a few minutes from now with Supriya and me. Keep it with ET Now.